This case was never about what the killer did. It was about what the victim accidentally captured in real time while it was happening to her. One voicemail, one chilling recording, and one psychological mistake that would expose everything. On July 27, 2022, in Aberdeen, Maryland, a young woman made a phone call to her fiancé. She never said a word. But what that phone captured in her final moments would become the single most important piece of evidence in solving her murder. But here's what haunts investigators to this day. Even after they identified her killer through that recording, even after his DNA was found on her body, even after he admitted ties to one of the most violent gangs in America, the system let him walk free. For months, he attended high school with other teenagers while police waited for evidence to process. How does a suspected murderer get released back into the community? This is the story of Kayla Hamilton, the voicemail that recorded her final moments, and the catastrophic system failure that followed. Kayla Nicole Hamilton was 20 years old. She was hardworking, sweet, and someone who mostly kept to herself. Kayla was high-functioning autistic. Those who knew her described her as kind-hearted and gentle, the type of person who wouldn't hurt anyone. She lived in a modest mobile home in Aberdeen, Maryland, with her fiancé, Hector. It wasn't much, but it was theirs. They were building a life together, one day at a time. To help with rent, they'd recently taken in a roommate, a quiet teenager, someone who seemed harmless enough. His name was Walter Martinez. On the morning of July 27, 2022, everything seemed normal. Hector left for work early, kissing Kayla goodbye like he did every morning. She had the day off. She'd be home alone with their roommate. It was supposed to be just another Wednesday. When Hector came home from work that afternoon, something felt wrong immediately. The door was unlocked. The trailer was too quiet. He called out for Kayla. No answer. He walked down the narrow hallway toward their bedroom, and that's when he saw her. Kayla was lying on the floor, motionless. There was blood, and it was clear. What had happened inside that room was not accidental. A violent struggle had taken place, and Kayla was gone. Hector's hands trembled as he dialed 911. His voice cracked as he begged for help, even though somewhere deep down he already knew she was gone. First responders arrived within minutes. Kayla Nicole Hamilton was pronounced dead at the scene. She had been strangled and assaulted. The medical examiner would later confirm she fought for her life. The voicemail. As detectives processed the crime scene, Hector remembered something. Earlier that day, he'd received a call from Kayla. When he answered, no one spoke. He assumed it was a pocket dial. He hung up and went back to work. But it wasn't a pocket dial. When investigators retrieved Hector's phone, they found a voicemail, 4 minutes and 33 seconds long. And when they pressed play, what they heard made their blood run cold. Kayla's voice, panicked, crying, begging. And then a man's voice, calm, cold, methodical. She had unknowingly recorded her own murder. In those final moments, as she fought for her life, Kayla managed to call her fiancé.
The phone captured everything: the struggle, her pleas, the sounds of violence, and most importantly, it captured him.
In any homicide investigation, detectives first look at the person closest to the victim. In this case, that was Hector. But the voicemail ruled him out almost immediately. Hector was at work when Kayla was killed. His alibi was airtight. And the voice captured on that recording, it wasn't his. With Hector eliminated, investigators turned their attention to the only other person who had access to the home that day, Walter Martinez, the 17-year-old roommate. The interrogation. When police brought Martinez in for questioning, what unsettled them wasn't anger or fear or even denial. It was the absence of all three. Martinez sat across from detectives, calm, detached. He showed no visible grief, no shock, no fear, and in a room built to provoke reactions, his lack of one spoke louder than anything he said. When asked about Kayla's death, he shrugged. When asked what he did that day, he calmly listed his routine. I woke up, made breakfast, she was all ready, so I just went out, bought some earrings at the mall. He described eating, shopping, hanging out, all while Kayla's body lay in the next room. Detectives pressed him. Didn't you think to call someone? Didn't you wonder what happened? Martinez barely reacted. His affect was flat, almost bored. One investigator later said it was like interviewing someone about the weather. There was no empathy, no remorse, no humanity. But here's where Martinez made his critical error, the psychological slip that would unravel everything. He talked too much. Most guilty people either lawyer up immediately or offer short defensive answers, but Martinez kept talking. He provided details. He reconstructed his movements that day with precision that felt rehearsed. Psychologically, this revealed something crucial. He believed he was smarter than everyone in that room. He thought he could talk his way out of it. That overconfidence, that need to control the narrative, gave investigators exactly what they needed. They collected DNA evidence, swabs from Kayla's body, samples from Martinez, and then they waited. Here's where this case takes a turn that will shock you. Even though Martinez was the prime suspect, even though his voice likely matched the recording, even though he showed absolutely no empathy, police still couldn't hold him. Why? Because he was 17 years old, a minor. And under Maryland law at the time, a juvenile suspect could not be held in an adult facility while investigators waited for DNA results. So on August 4th, 2022, just 8 days after Kayla's murder, Walter Martinez was released into the custody of Child Protective Services. And it gets worse. On December 14th, 2022, nearly 5 months after Kayla's death, the DNA results finally came back. Positive match. Walter Martinez's DNA was found on Kayla's body. The evidence was irrefutable. He was arrested immediately and charged with first-degree murder and first-degree rape. But the story doesn't end there. During further interrogation, Martinez revealed something that sent shockwaves through the entire investigation. He admitted to being a member of MS-13, one of the most violent transnational gangs in the world. And then he confessed to something even more chilling. Kayla wasn't his first victim. Martinez admitted to committing murders in El Salvador before entering the United States illegally. He described these killings with the same cold detachment he'd shown when discussing Kayla's death. Investigators were stunned. They hadn't just caught a killer. They'd caught a serial offender who had slipped through every crack in the system. In August 2023, Walter Martinez pleaded guilty to all charges. He was sentenced to 70 years in prison, effectively a life sentence. But for Kayla's family, no sentence could ever bring her back. Kayla Nicole Hamilton was 20 years old. She loved animals. She dreamed of a future with Hector. She fought for her life in those final moments and unknowingly left behind the evidence that would bring her killer to justice. In the years since, her family has become advocates for change. They are fighting to reform Maryland's juvenile detention laws so that violent suspects, regardless of age, can be held appropriately while evidence is processed. They call it Kayla's Law.
This case exposes a terrifying truth. Sometimes, the system designed to protect us fails in the most catastrophic ways. A young woman was murdered in her own home. Her killer showed no remorse. The evidence was clear. But because of a legal technicality, he walked free for months. Attending school, living among the community, a danger hiding in plain sight. Kayla's voicemail captured her final moments, but it also captured something else. Proof that one psychological mistake, overconfidence, the need to control the story, can be a killer's undoing. Rest in peace, Kayla Nicole Hamilton. Your voice will never be forgotten.
If this case affected you, please consider supporting Kayla's family in their fight for legislative reform. And if you found this video informative, please like, subscribe, and share. Justice begins with awareness. Until next time, stay safe.